All right, and we are live with episode number 1. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to After Work with Duzzy. Yeah, I know. I had a different name set up for this, but the idea of After Work with Duzzy actually worked really well in terms of what I wanted to go with. So, yeah, that's actually what I'm going with the name of the podcast. And this is number 1, you know what I mean? How it's set up. Look, I'm still in the works here. I still want to find out what works, what doesn't work. But the format and the goal is I want to make this like 10 minutes. That's my goal. Yeah, maybe like 8 to 12 minutes, but 10 minutes would be the ideal goal for this. Reason it's so short is because obviously it's my first time, and also being one person talking, the attention span of every person isn't going to be to want to listen to someone speak for that long anyway. So I might as well just keep it short until I find a reason to actually make it longer, you know, maybe add more segments, etc. And in terms of this first one, I'm kind of going scriptless, and I want to see how that works out. Why? Because with other things that I've created, I do sort of follow a slight script, even if it's not word for word, but it's just like giving me a general direction of where I should go. Reason for that is just because it keeps me in line. But the whole goal of this is for me to just talk, you know what I mean? I just want to share what I want to share. But we'll see what happens, we'll see what works. And in terms of this episode, man, the first thing I wanted to speak about is something that stays on my mind all the time, and any person that actually like that I speak to, any person that I've spoken to for more than 10 minutes, I always go to this question because it's something that I think about all the time, and that's what I want to talk about now. And the topic is Sonder. I'm sure there's so many people have asked this question, like, do you know what Sonder is? And then I share it with them because I'm so fascinated by that idea, and I always want to know what other people's takes are on it, or if they even feel the feeling at all. And I'll definitely try to put a definition in there, but Sonder, it's the realization or feeling, but mainly a realization that every single person that you meet and see in your life lives their own life that is just as complex and just as intricate as your own, you know? And the idea of that blows my mind every time I think about it. And why? I don't know, man, because it's just like, you know, you live your own life for so long, and maybe being an only child, I only get to see the in-depthness of my own life. Maybe that's why, but you know, I know the depth and complexities, the stresses, the fun, everything that goes on in my world, the self-awareness or the ignorance or lack of whatever. And I know so much about what I think about, what I know, what I see, what I feel. And now you're gonna tell me every single other person on this planet thinks that deep? Like, it's fascinating, and they do. Like, everyone's life is that in depth, and it's just so crazy because it's like you just see people on a daily basis, and you know, you only think about the shallow area that you do see them in. Like, I drive past, and I'm actually gonna explain where it actually came from for me personally. But like, you drive past someone, and you just see them for a split second, you see them laugh or something, and you think about, maybe they just heard a funny joke. But it's so much deeper than that, you know. They have a whole 20-year background that's formed the things that they find funny, the things that I wouldn't find funny, but they do. There's so much that goes into even those 10 seconds that I've just seen of their own personality was brought upon by years and years of experience. And even before that, like just there's been so much that formed and made that person who they are today, and why I even saw them for 10 seconds on the road, on that day, on that time, at that place. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I find that fascinating, you know what I mean? So how did this come about for me? So for me, it started back in high school. Was probably, I mean, I've always thought about the feeling, but when I was like, okay, this is Sonder, you know. I was in high school, and like, I think grade 10, 11ish, I used to take the taxis like on a daily basis. I used to stay in Montclair, and I used to take the taxi to town and then to school, which is in Glenwood. And whenever I would, right, I would always take pretty consistently the 6 a.m. taxi, right, that would take me to town. So I'd always leave the house 5:45 or maybe 5 to 6 or whatever. But by 6:10, there's always a taxi that picked me up and I'm on my way to town, right? And see, what fascinated me here was this taxi every day would take the same route and would go the same route around the same time. So you would expect same route, same time. Surely after like a week, I'm gonna start seeing the same faces over and over. And it packs about what 16 people per trip. So surely out of the 16, every day I'm going to see the same 12 people. Surely, right? Like that. I don't know. Maybe I was being silly thinking that's how I'm gonna see people. But in my head, I figured that's how it's gonna work, right? But that wasn't the case, right? So every day I would get in the same taxi, and I did have regulars. There was like 6 people that I always knew, same faces, same people I'd sit next to. And because I was a very small guy, they always used to stick me in the back, and I'd sit in the back and be squeezed out in the box. You know the box, you know. And it was calm, you know what I mean. And the people at the back were always the same people at the back, right? Calm. But I used to take this taxi for like 2 years, and out of those 2 years, like, it was very rare that it was the exact same 14 people, at least 14 people in the taxi, right? There were almost always new faces. And this was mind-boggling to me, right? Because I'm like, how are there constantly new faces? It's the same taxi, every day, same route, same time. Why is there a difference every single day? It wasn't making sense to me. Like, I don't understand how many different people can be on the same routes, right? And that's what and this was like, this used to really like, not irritate me, but I used to think about it. I'm trying to deepen, like, why are we so many, like, surely after a month, I'm gonna start seeing the same 14 over and over. And the reason I came up with the number 14, it could have been 12, it could have been, I don't even know the number. I wasn't doing any stats, but I was just thinking, at some point, these people are gonna normalize. I'm always on the same taxi at the same time every day. Why is it not that consistent? Like the consistent people, they were like 6, 7. But it wasn't all of us being consistent. And I was kind of shocked about that. And maybe it's just because I was ignorant, again, I say that. But it's like, why? And that's when I started thinking, I'm like, how can there be so many different, and this was homes, this wasn't like apartments as well. Like in apartments, there's high turnover, people leave and they come back. But this is homes. I was staying with my granny at the time. So I don't expect people to constantly be moving homes, you know what I mean? So I'm like, wow, sway, you know what I'm saying? And that's what I started like really trying to think. And now I'm thinking about people, and I'm like what's going on in these people's lives? You know what I mean? And I'm just trying to understand, how can it be so different? And I started talking to the regulars, because obviously you see a face enough times, eventually you're gonna build some form of relationship. If you don't, I think it's something people should do. As a human species, I think it's actually really important for us to build relations. But we're gonna get there. Anyways, but I started talking, and that's when I started like just learning about other people and stuff like that. I probably sound so selfish. I'm just like, Chief is busy. It took you high school, took you 16 years to finally talk to someone and understand that people have different lives. Yeah, I guess it did. It was just like, that's when I started realizing like people are clearly so different. Like the idea that every day I could do the same thing over and over, but everyone's constantly changing, means people are living other kind lives, you know what I mean? Like that, that's when it first sparked to me that clearly people are living different lives that I can never understand or comprehend. People have different stresses, etc. And that was really when I started to fantasize, isn't the right word, but really deep the idea of it, you know? And then there was another moment as well. This is a recent one actually. I don't even remember when, but I remember when I was at the Robots and someone tried to sell me a newspaper. And I'm like, okay, so I come from Durban and now I'm staying in Jozi. I've only known big city living. I'm like, brother, are you trying to sell me a newspaper, fam? And it was between the 2020s, right? Like from 2020 to 2023 now. I'm like, you telling me like this is still a hit? Like the fact that you're here surely means you do sell some newspaper, right? But the idea that you're trying to sell me a newspaper now in 2020 something, like, one, people don't really watch, especially the younger generations don't really watch the news as much as they probably should. I don't know, I know I don't. And if there's any news for me to catch, I'll definitely catch it on some form of technology. Like, for me personally, it's probably social media, because I just don't, like, I don't watch news and shit like that. But even to those that do, there's the News 24 app, there's the Business Tech app, there's so many apps, there's so many, you can just go websites, you can go on a blog, you can look up whatever you want. Like, I have no reason to look at a newspaper. And again, I'm just like, why would he? and then again the realization hit, like there's generally millions, billions of people that still use this as a primary form of getting their news. And I'm like, golly, like the world is really bigger than I think it is, you know what I mean? And it's like, these are very obvious thoughts. This isn't some new realization that I just figured out. I know it's I know it's not something new, but it still amazes me. It still amazes me, like, jeepers fam, like we're all so different. Like there's so many places that just have so many little things that I just will never understand or experience because of where I grew up and how I live. But there's so many different people who have their own experiences. Damn, we've already hit 10 minutes. Brother, this 10-minute thing is a bit too short, yeah? But I'm gonna actually cut it here. I'm gonna use this time to cut it. Like there's so many different people in the world that have just grown up so differently from me, that do things so differently. And that's just like on a growing up perspective. On a life perspective, like there's so many different jobs, there's so many different careers, there's so many different ways of thinking that exist in the world, and it's just baffling. Like there's we now have like 8 billion people in the world, and like no two people have the exact same experience as each other. Brother, oh man, I want to go deep in this thing, yeah, but I don't want to make it too long. But I mean, let's see what happens. Bro, like I recently watched a TikTok about this experiment that they did, where they took like a set of twins, or was it triplets or twins? I think 2 sets of experiments. Oh, fam, I want to go into it, but let's see how far we go. But essentially, it was the one experiment that I did see the full depth of was the fact that they took these 3 triplets. 3 triplets came from the same place, and then they actually split them up across different places across the world, and then they later on interviewed them to see what the results were. Like, are these people still in sync? Do they have the same thoughts? How much did them being from the same womb make them like similar, and how much did them like learning and growing in different environments make them different? I'm going to share that later because that's going to move into another topic. What I wanted to share though was another experiment where they took twins, and obviously twins grow up with like the same exact lifestyle, right? But they actually also like looked up the way these twins grew up, etc., and they interviewed them from time to time, etc. I wish I knew the name of these experiments so I could share them. That's probably something that I could probably write that down as a note to get better. But essentially what they found is like, which is obviously obvious, is like as much as these people were the exact person, and when I say exact person, it's only because they almost had the same upbringing, they were still so different in their ideas and like their beliefs, growing up in the same environments with the same loving people around them, but yet they still grew up to be different people. Like, even like that idea is like, I mean, obviously I'm going to be very different from the person who grew up in another country, but the fact that I could grow up with someone in the exact same home and still be of different beliefs, like, that's incredible. Like, what? Like, I'm in awe at the idea that we can be all so different. There's 8 billion people on this planet, but they are all different. No two people are the same. No matter how hard you try to make them the same, at the end of the day, they will not be the same. Both these people could see the exact same situation and interpret it differently. Wow, that's incredible. I don't know, it's a thought I think about a lot, and I'm just like, wow, I'm in awe, and I would love to know the way everyone thinks. 8 billion is way too many people to go through, and I'll never be able to get the chance to do that. But I'm always fascinated to know what other people are thinking, because I spend my whole life in my own brain. I only have my opinions. I only know what I think, and everything is justified in my head because it's my upbringing, it's my conclusions. You know what I mean? Like, I could think that this is a good idea because everything in my past has made me believe this, but someone else could see the exact same thing and be like, "You're dumb. That's terrible." I love that. I find it really cool. And I know it's sort of moving away from Sonder, but it's still that same idea, that's the same idea of we're all so different, And I remember the one time it really made me go crazy. Like, not really crazy, but it's just like, I remember I was in a taxi and I was driving through town. And sometimes you just get some people that are just, chilling outside their place, you know what I mean? Like, they wake up, maybe they shower or whatever, then they just sit down and they just chill outside their apartment in a chair, just looking out. And it's just, as we drove past, I'm just like, wow, like what experiences put you here? there's nothing I can guess whatever I guess, but there's so many ways their life could have gone to bring them to this moment right here. You know, they could have come from a farm background and then they came out to Josie, big city, found a job, and now they're chilling. Or they could have come from a big city life and they're just like, nah, I don't want to live. Maybe like they're a rich kid, I don't want to live with dad anymore. I want to come make a life of my own. And they go and say, you know, there's so many different ways their life could have brought them to this place. And as much as all I saw was just one guy sitting outside his apartment, like, his life has so many different stresses and ideas and things that I will never understand or comprehend. I could have a conversation with this guy and he could tell me all the stresses he's facing, and I'll just be like, brother, you could just do 1, 2, 3. Like, I've seen that where I tell people my stresses and they're like, brother, just don't think like that, just do 1, 2, 3. And it's like, not that we'll never understand each other, but there's just not enough time to have a deep enough conversation to understand each other's beliefs and thoughts and ideas and whatever. And it's just like, yo, there's a lot going on, fam. There's so much going on. And now I'm at the end. That is really the idea of Sonder. This is the and I'm such a forgetful person as well. There's so many people I've shared this idea with over and over again. Not because I want them to remember, but just because I get amazed by it again, and then I'm like, I just have to share this, and then I share this. And that's why I wanted it to be my first episode, because it's like, it's one of the first things in my mind that made me go, I don't want to use the word crazy, but just made me go like, wow, you know what I mean? So I'm glad that I actually get to share it on a public platform like this, and, you know, get to, oh, fam, you know what, yeah, before I end it, oh man, I remember the one time, I was with, see, now this is something I need to determine as well. Do I share the names of my friends and family as well, or do I just say people? But for now, I won't share until I know I can comfortably do it. Boom, I was with one of my mates. We were at the beach, and I remember just chilling there, and we looked and saw, this is back in Durban, we looked and saw all the boats. And we saw all the boats that were lined up to go into dock. And he was telling me, like, you know, these old, they sit in the boats and they load up even for like 3 to 6 months just there waiting to dock, you know what I mean? I've seen it take obviously shorter, but like it can go up to that long, right? And I was just like, wow! Like the idea that that guy 10 kilometers away on that boat, he's traveled distances I will never know, but his life was so different from mine. Like, he lives on boats 3 months at a time, and he's just stuck in this box for 3 months at a time, and he's just calm with it. And not to say there's anything wrong with that. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with that. But it's just like, I don't know if I could do that. I don't even know how I'd get into that position of doing that. But that's just his life, and it's like, that's so different from me, fam. You know, I mean, there's pros and cons to his life, just as there's pros and cons to my life. I mean, a huge pro is just getting the idea to explore the world. He probably gets to see how small we really are in the world compared to what we think. You know what I mean? Like, being able to see the ocean and that landscape for that long at a time, I'm sure that brings a huge perspective, a different perspective, you know what I mean? But I'll never have that perspective. I guess I could, but I don't think I want to, because I don't think I'm gonna live in a boat for that long, you know? And I remember just thinking about that deep thing. I was like, damn, bro, that's insane. Like, people living different, you know what I mean? And then I remember that we were sitting up there, so I'm looking at the boats like this. And then after some time, it was nighttime, it was evening night. And then I just leaned back, boom, and then I look up, and I see the stars. I see the moon. And then perspective was brought back again. I was just like, brother, I'm just an ant in this little universe. Like, there's so much more to life than this little green ball we call Earth, or blue ball I should say, because I guess we're all water. Like, I'm just one guy with my little stress on, I need to do this for work, but brother, like, there's so much more. There's whole planets, there's whole galaxies. So I'm just an ant in the Milky Way galaxy. There's more than one galaxy, big brother. Nah, you know, see that I love that. I love feeling small in that sense. That makes me feel, I think that's the coolest shit ever. But yeah, I think I'm gonna end it there, because that is now me sharing all my thoughts. Like, I thought I'd edit a bit shorter, but I had to at least get the thoughts out, because there's no point in making a whole new episode just to share like 2 minutes worth or whatever. But yeah, nah, I'm actually comfortable now. That's first episode done and dusted. A lot shorter than I wanted to be, but again, I'm not. I still want it to be something someone would consider watching. You know what I mean? If I make it an hour, like my goal, bro, like, eventually I'll get there. Don't get it twisted, but at least let's build up to it. You dig what I'm saying? My favorite saying is, "Don't sprint the marathon." So that's what I'm gonna try to do, and I'm gonna try to just slowly get better and better. And the only way to do it is to start, which I'm doing now and I'm happy about. But let's also gradually progress instead of, you know what I mean? So that's me, man. Thank you so much for spending some time with me, hearing my thoughts. I just really appreciate it. I enjoy sharing thoughts and hearing thoughts. If anything I said resonates with anyone, I would love to hear any thoughts that anyone else has. So thank you so much to everyone, and yeah, peace.